Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Inspire Local webinar, your weekly Tuesday business check-in with, all these amazing businesses in our community. For those of you who haven't watched before, Inspire Local was created to inspire small businesses to support and grow with each other. So each week we've been bringing in an expert or inviting in local small businesses around a topic to share how they're approaching different aspects of their business. And so this week, I'm super excited because it's a topic that's really close to my heart, which is brands that have embraced a social purpose. And during COVID-19, we've obviously seen, there's different ways for businesses to step up. And so we've brought on Julian from Ironclad Graphics and Will Arnaud of the Otter Farms Catering to talk about what they're doing during the pandemic. And then we also brought in Whitney Haynes, who has some longer serving purpose-driven aspects. So we thought it would give you a really great sort of diversity of some of the different types of things that brands and businesses can do with a social purpose and to make their communities and the world a bit of a better place as we continue to do business. As always, I'm Braden Dragomir, and with Inspire Local is John Allison and Katie Ross. If you would like to engage in any way, there is always the chat, so feel free to chime in on conversations. And if you have specific questions for the panelists, there's always the Q&A in the bottom of the Zoom window there. So feel free to ask questions, and we'll bring those up as they come. So with all that being said, let's jump into the panelists, and I'm going to have them introduce their businesses and what they do. So I'll start with you, Julian. Can you take us through a bit of the history of Ironclad Graphics and what you do?
Yeah, for sure. I started Ironclad probably about 15 years ago now. I started doing band merchandise for all of my friends after high school because I went to St. Lawrence, learned carpentry, didn't have a job, printed t-shirts for a couple years out of my house, apartment really, and realized that it was a great way to make a business. So started kind of expanded from there, and we're now on our third shop. And until the COVID thing, we had 8 employees and probably one of the largest printing facilities between Toronto and Montreal, serving everyone from local businesses to national brands. We've done a lot of work in the cannabis industry as well as the craft beer industry, and touring bands going through Canada, things like that. So our new project is our support local thing, but that's a quick rundown.
Amazing. Thanks. Will, can you, I know you from your Bayview Farms day.
Yep.
And so for those who probably don't know, you were in the midst of starting a new company with Francois, sort of when all this happened. So can you take us through what you're up to now in terms of the company you're doing with Francois, and then we can get into the work you're doing during this?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I was at Bayview Farms the past 4 years or so. Built up a really good relationship with Francois. We wanted to continue that relationship. So with the closing of Bayview in January, we decided to start Otter Creek Catering in conjunction with the already existing Otter Creek Farms food truck. Just we're all getting off the ground in January. Starting, the business planning, getting into this very new process for both of us. Not gonna lie, we don't have much as far as business backgrounds go, but we do have significant food experience as well as a pretty good understanding of the Kingston food scene. So we wanted to start Otter Creek Catering. We got going, did a few events. We did a couple events with you there, Brandon, which was great. And then COVID hit and everything kind of got put on the back burner. We were gearing up to get the truck ready to go. We're getting ready to hit the streets. And like you said, things just kind of got put on hold. We were put in a unique situation with the way that we went about starting the business, in that we didn't have a lot of capital up front. We weren't trying to make a massive company. This was something we kind of tiptoed our way into. But with that, we didn't have a brick and mortar space to prep out of. So a lot of our operations have been dependent on commercial kitchens. With everything shutting down, I don't really have a place to operate out of. So everything's kind of got, like I said, put on hold. We're still trying to work on the business aspects of things, which we have to do in this time, keep busy. But now we've kind of moved and shift our focus a little bit to honestly, in order to stay relevant, right? We've kind of missed out on the start of the business. Uh, we can't get going exactly the way we wanted to, so we have to find a way to stay relevant in this climate. And that's part of the reason why I partnered up with the Lionhearts organization. Do you want me to go into the Lionhearts now, or?
Well, let's jump into it after.
Yeah.
Perfect. But thank you.
No problem.
And Whitney, we got to do a makers film together a few years ago, and you have a long and interesting background before getting into your design company. But can you take us through what you do? And
Sure.
I'm sure people have seen your things before, but
Maybe not. I make jewelry, mainly silver jewelry. It's handmade and organic in nature. It relates to nature, and try to keep it contemporary as well. So that's what I do out of my home studio. I go to big shows and markets throughout the year, and over the last 3 years, I've been building my online store and website. So that's how, those are the two key ways that I sell my product. So when COVID happened, I was 2 weeks out from going to the One of a Kind show in Toronto. So I had lots of stock built, and that was my first big show of the year. Yeah. So same, we all have a story, right? So that was my story. And since then I've just switched over to online, obviously, and even, had a hard time deciding if that was something that was appropriate to do and if it was essential and all those things. So I've had my own journey with all of that. And my company runs as a profit and social purpose organization. So it's attached to all the things we're talking about today. Yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Julian, can you take us through the project that you've started to support local businesses here in Kingston?
Yeah, for sure. So the project that we're doing is called Support Your Local, and you can put in any business name there if you want. But the idea is that we're going to run an online store, and we're going to offer businesses the opportunity to sell t-shirts on that store at no cost to themselves. So they either send us a logo, or we help them put together a logo or modify it or do some text or whatever they want. They can put the shirt up for sale online. Their friends, their family, their associates, whoever wants to support their business can purchase the t-shirt. After approximately 3 or so weeks after we launch the t-shirt, we print them all, and then we either ship them or deliver them to whoever's ordered them. And then for each t-shirt that we've sold for that business, we give that business $10. So if you sell 100 t-shirts, you get $1,000, and there's no cost to the business. We do all the work, and you just kind of got to send us a logo. We didn't come up with the idea. It's been done fairly extensively in the States with quite a few shops down there, because our entire industry was hit instantly very, very hard by COVID. So everyone pivoted. Half the shops in America are making face masks, and the other half are doing this sort of program. So our hope is that we can kind of bring it to the local region and hopefully raise some money for some businesses that are closed, especially those that are 100% forced to be closed and don't have an option to open at all.
And so what are the types of projects you're looking for? I think, it sounds like it's open to sort of any business that wants to do it, but what are the things that you're really excited to try to tackle with this initiative?
Well, we see like a lot of businesses, especially those that have just started, that can't get going at all, or those that have really high rent. So we're really hoping that Jess will be able to strengthen the local community, who if we lose all of our favorite shops in town, then what are we going to do to go get coffee or go to restaurants or things like that? So we'd really like to see all of the places, especially like restaurants, bars, things like that, that have wait staff or things like that who have been put out of work, and don't have an ability to kind of bring them back, because you don't need wait staff if you can't have people in your restaurant. So hopefully, there's a way to work with maybe some other business owners to help support their staff through, through this initiative.
And so, where can people go to, like, one, find you, but two, submit artwork and get the process going?
You can check out our website at www.supportlocal613.com, or you can check out our shop website at ironcladgraphics.com, and there should be links there to take you to the page. There's a sign-up form so you can submit your business information, fine print on the details of the project, who we are, all that sort of stuff. And hopefully later this week, we'll have the Shopify store fully launched with our first sort of selection of businesses. And then we hope everyone will kind of share it around through social media, and everyone will benefit. So, yeah.
Amazing. Thanks so much.
No problem.
Will, you've taken a bit of a different approach, which is that it's not necessarily your business doing something specific, but you've jumped in with Lionhearts. So can you take us through what Lionhearts is and what you've been doing?
Yeah. So Lionhearts is a charity organization that's existed in Kingston since 2014, mainly in a very limited capacity. Not a lot of people would have heard of them. They very much operated in the background. They've been essentially a distribution service, providing donated food from various businesses in Kingston to the organizations who will help put that food out to those in need, whether that's St. Vincent de Paul, Martha's Table, any of those businesses. Lionhearts has been involved in some capacity. With the onset of COVID, they kind of shifted their focus a little bit. A lot of organizations that provided these meals to the less fortunate shut down, completely shut down. With that, they noticed there was a big gap in those still existing to distribute meals at night. So they started the COVID Street Project. Initially, they started off looking at about 30 people. They did that for 2 or 3 days, and then they called me up. I had a contact within the organization who knew that we were kind of out of work at the moment, not doing much. She contacted me and said, "Hey, can you come in and just kind of lend a hand?" Admittedly, I was very unprepared for what was to come. Did not expect nearly what it grew into. So I jumped in the first day. We did about 50 meals, providing, and then since then we've jumped up to about 700 meals a day that gets distributed between 4 different locations within Kingston. So I deal basically with donated food, primarily donated food. I have to make a simple meal out of that. Those meals get distributed every night at Bernie Park, the Kingston Community Health Center, and then 3 times a week to now Amherst-View, and then into Napanee as well. Yeah, it's gotten very big, very fast, and it definitely shows a need that's in the community. There was definitely a gap when COVID hit with the with being able to provide meals to people who can't otherwise support themselves. It started off with mostly homeless, and after everything shut down, we started to see a lot more of the low-income families, single mothers, recent immigrants. So it's very much expanded to more than just the homeless. My role, like I said, is just to facilitate the food. I work with a lot of amazing volunteers who help distribute, package, and create these care packages to get distributed. Yeah, like I said, it was something that I didn't expect to grow. I didn't know what this was when I jumped in. I'm just glad that I did. It really, like I said, with the business being on hold, we had to find a way to keep busy, especially as cooks. We're very bored when we're not working. So this provided an excellent opportunity both to help out in the community and to, like I said, keep the business relevant. They've been very good at helping support us, promote the business more than I ever would have asked or expected from them, which is amazing. Like I said, I'm glad that I'm able to be here to help out and contribute to the community, because that's really been a primary focus for the business anyways. We want to be able to give back. At the end of the day, people need to eat, and we have the ability to create that food for them, especially, like I said, in large numbers.
And yes, so for people that might have missed it, you're now making over 700 meals a day.
Yes.
And since the middle of March, is it right? I was reading on social media, you've done now over 15,000 delivered meals?
I think as of today, I think we're at about 17,000 meals.
Wow.
Since March 19th. Like I said, it's incredible how it's grown, the need in the community. Like I said, I'm just glad to be able to be there and support it.
Awesome. Thanks, Will.
No problem.
And Whitney, I've known you for several years, and you've always had a very strong social purpose when it came to your brand, and we've talked about it in how you source your leather, as well as some of the transitions you're making with your silver as well, which I think, just beyond social purpose is pretty amazing as a business. But beyond that, you have two causes that you support very actively with the sales of your products. So can you take us through the organizations that you're supporting with your product?
Yeah. So the third one I didn't mention, just because we're still trying to put it into the bio and onto the website, but I do a lot with Dress for Successful locally, and mainly their Bring on the Bling. It's their big, what do you call it? Their key fundraiser of the year, and it just made sense because it's jewelry. Everyone goes home with a piece of jewelry, so I've donated to that and worked with some of the clients making jewelry with them to also contribute to the evening. So that's the third one, and that's the one locally. So that's sort of my tie here. The other one Tree Planted, I struggled trying to decide what it was going to be. That one's an easy one. All I have to do is write them a check once a month for the equivalent of how many pieces of jewelry I've sold times $1. So I don't do a lot beyond that right now, but I really struggled with environmental cause, social cause. To me, it's all the same, right? As we're seeing now. So that was a great one. I thought they do a great job. They're out of Vermont, and they just won a big award with 1% Planet for being a great social enterprise. So I'm happy about that. And so that's really easy. And it's just through my social media, I'm able to just sort of talk to it a little bit, show how, and just give people access to a really easy way to give back. Like they're doing a great campaign for Mother's Day, buy mom a tree or 10 trees, and you just go onto their site. So how easy is that, right? And then the second one is a little more involved, the third one, with my sister Heather, The Art of Courage, and it's a platform that helps bring awareness through art to different causes around the world. But specifically, we work in the one I chose to work with tightly is the Congo, in Goma, and there's an orphanage there with 80 children. It's called the Tuko Kids Home, and there's 80 kids that we've built building for, house, and school them. And there's other enterprises being developed as we go. So what I noticed was sponsorships are a great thing. You get people to sponsor a child for the year and their needs are taken care of, but you don't always fill those 80 spots. And there's a lot of pressure to make that money every year as all these projects grow. So I've right from the beginning thought that selling a product and giving 1% back would be always a constant. And if my business grew, that money would grow for the projects. So I'm really conscientious at the beginning to grow my business so that those dollars really made a difference in the Congo. And then aside to that is in Tanzania, where we first started doing things, there's a bunch of street kids that make jewelry, and I send over scraps and tools, and they've made bracelets that come back here that we sell at different fundraising. So there's a lot of different little things going on, not just the selling of the product that I've developed, but get involved with the fundraisers we do here for it. And that's sort of that's my really deep passion project.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I guess this is a bit of a question that anyone can sort of jump in and answer. But I think as small businesses, and John and myself and Katie as well, we're all here in the Kingston community. I think it's really easy to get caught up in the day-to-day operations of your business. So can any of you speak to what made you look at these different initiatives and jump on board, or create your own to be able to support the Kingston community and beyond?
Oh, I was going to say, I know as far as myself goes with Lionhearts, it was really it just felt like the right thing to do more than anything. In this time, I could be sitting at home, I could be, enjoying my isolation, or I could be doing something meaningful. And I had the ability to help, and I wanted to be able to do that. And that's, I think, really what it was. It just felt like the right thing to do. No, not even relating to the business. Everything that's happened with regards to the business and promoting the business was all, as I call it, it's all gravy. It was great. But regardless of that, it just felt like the right thing to do, to sign on to a social cause and help out in the Kingston community. I mean, what else would I be doing?
Will, do you think this is something that, as you and Francois build Otter Creek now, that you're going to be thinking about more as you plan and you grow the business?
Absolutely. I think community support goes hand in hand with what we're doing, right? I mean, we can't call ourselves a catering company that tries to focus on local food and local business if we're not supporting local causes. It's something that moving forward, we're definitely going to be trying to partner up with various organizations. I'm sure that after this is all over, we'll be doing things with Lionhearts. That relationship is definitely not going away. Yeah, it absolutely, I think it goes hand in hand.
Awesome. Whitney or Julian, do you guys have anything to jump in with on the decision making behind?
Yeah. Well, there's we ran out of projects. That was a thing. So that's definitely part of it. A lot of our work doesn't have much of a social value. I sort of came into this from a bit more of a sort of social activist background before I got into this. I sort of fell into running my own print shop because I didn't want to have a job with other people. So I've always sort of felt that having some value to the work that you do has some value, but a lot of what we do is just sort of like making commercial products for businesses for people to buy. So it's a lot of consumerism. But the opportunity to maybe help somebody's, ability to make a living these days is a start of it. And I'd really hope to be able to carry on the model that we build for the project into doing things like raising money for everything from, like, say, homeless shelters to the Red Cross or whatever, using the same online t-shirt store model. So that's sort of hopefully going to be the beginning of something that's a bit more interesting in the long run and has a bit more social value. But, right now we just hope that we can help people that are immediately impacted by this. So a bit different than Lionhearts, but,
Still helps.
Yep.
Still helps.
Yeah. For me, it's been a really interesting time. My gut instinct is, what can I do right now to help locally and jump in there like you two gentlemen have done? And what I kept coming back to, I don't I can't offer anything directly with my jewelry. I can send a little bit out to frontline people in the background, and that makes them have a nice day. And that's great. But on a bigger level, I sat down. I have a person I work with closely in marketing that I, work with 8 hours a week. And she goes, if you need to, lay me off right now, I understand. I said, no, this is our time to work on all that back stuff we never have time for, right? We're off the hamster wheel, and we can get that commitment page up, and we can get it, like, really start that message going in a bigger way. So I guess that's how I use that time. And then we've got Nurses Week next week, so there might be something happening locally that way, but that's how I've jumped in and dealt with COVID. But it's been hard not to like go, oh, I'm going to learn to sew and make a mask, or, cook some meals, or bread. It's been everything not to jump in and do other things. But I just kept knowing that that's what I wanted to do from day one. When I started this business, I wanted that social purpose, or whatever you want to call it, aspect to my business. I had come from corporate world in Toronto, and I had some adverse reactions to that. I needed to get away from it. And I don't know where I read it, but someone said, if you can just start your business model with giving away 1% a year, like just 1% of your gross sales, you'll never miss it, because you won't know you had it. So I've tried to stay true to that. Some years I've said to, like, my sister, let me just grow this business, and I'll throw what I can at the project in Africa. But I just know that if I can get it up and going, it's going to have a bigger effect on the end. And we're sort of at that point where I can, make a difference by selling online. My social media is up and a little more effective. So I think that answers it.
Absolutely. And you touched on something that I want to ask you all about. Obviously you have this desire to help when you see a need. How do you balance your capacity to help? And when do you say yes and when do you say no? Because at some point, obviously we all reach fatigue, and that works against our ability to help.
Definitely. Well, that's sort of where I was saying to my sister, just trust, like, not that she was coming and asking me, but I just kept feeling like I needed to reiterate that it's coming. I just need a bigger base. And yeah, you do reach burnout once in a while, and you have to kind of step away from it and pick the easy things to help with when you're feeling burnt out, like donating my products to silent auctions. That's easy locally, right? I can do that every day, all day. So, but it is a hard balance. One year I spent the whole year saying yes to everything. And that, by the end, it's like, whoa. Yeah.
So any advice in what to guide to help identify when to say yes and when to say no?
Your gut, for me.
Yeah.
I think just like
certain amount of history of saying yes and saying no and having it go wrong. That's at least how we judge that sort of stuff. So,
and it's okay to say, how is it going to serve me? Because if the idea is that 1% grows, then you're giving back in a bigger way. So I think, being smart about it.
I think it's also just figuring out what works for you and your business. I mean,
yeah,
you can't do everything. Some things, I mean, somebody may have an idea that they think is wonderful and that you should be part of it, but it may not translate to what works for your business, right? So just identifying what works, what doesn't. Yeah, going with your gut, I think, really is at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Do either of you spend time considering what aligns with your brand's purpose? I find in my experience that alignment can often help to not just decrease fatigue, but to increase benefit in both ways.
Yeah. Passion, whatever you're passionate about. That's your surest way of following through. For me anyway. Yeah.
I would agree. Passion is definitely at the forefront. If you didn't have a passion for what you're doing, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
For sure.
Yeah. And so, Will and Julian, you you both sort of said in this conversation as well that you'll be thinking about how to take these initiatives forward with you as you continue to grow your businesses, and hopefully in a post COVID world, whatever that is. I think we're all still sort of discovering that. And Whitney, you had you sort of had the corporate world experience where you had sort of already been thinking that as you started your business. But for people that are watching this that are thinking about, like, how do I evaluate what organization I should support, or what are the causes I believe in, like, what advice would you have to people thinking about how to use their product or service or company to add an element of social good? What advice do you have in terms of thinking through what that cause or service is?
I definitely say analyze, if you're doing something with the intent of donating money to something, analyze potentially where it's going, what the organization will be using it for, and that sort of thing. And the more direct, like if you can donate to organizations such as Lionhearts that will directly lead to 700 meals a day, that's a really great sort of initiative. There's a lot of really vague places that you can start to raise money for, or do social initiatives for, which may have more or less value. And you also want to, maybe decide where your focus is, whether you're national, international, local. There's all sorts of ways that you can view that. But I think effectiveness of the end goal of what you're trying to achieve is very important, given where you can put your energy, and it can maybe lead to not a lot of change, when in an alternative scenario could lead to more change.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think aligning with someone that's, their main focus is a cause, and if they're a friend or a friend of a friend and it resonates, I think that's a really nice place to start too. Especially, like you said, someone starting a new business, depending on the size and the capital they're using to get going, it can be just really simple stuff like donating your hours to help them, right? So I think anything at any level is huge. I think some people feel like they don't do enough if they're not, giving a big whack of money or something. But so just, find, like you said, a project, Julian, that maybe you're not going to burn yourself out with too much, and you can really give them the biggest bang for their buck, possibly. Yeah.
When you look at the businesses you're running, and like Julian, I know a bit of your background, because I know you do, especially early on, you were helping a lot of like bands and small businesses just get operating in some way and have, something they could sell, or shirts for the music festival. Like, I think you've done a lot of initiatives like that might not have the same, cachet as what you're running now, that has a direct, purpose and benefit. But as you look at your businesses, do you feel like brands and businesses, I don't want to say have an obligation, but should be thinking about the broader community around them, and whether that's local or national or international, as they provide their service? Like, do you feel like brands have an opportunity to make change that maybe individuals don't have the same?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry. I think if you're making money, and if you're making large amounts of money, especially, you have some obligation to participate in society in a broader way, usually as a result of, contribute, whether it's, taxation and things like that. But I think that, it's important for businesses to have some kind of giving back element, because we're all successful because of the other people around us. And there's a lot of I don't know, business people that like to think that have created something out of nothing or whatever, but it's all very much related to everything around us, whether it's our customers or our employees or our families or whatever. And on some level, I have respect for businesses that try to do something to make something better in the world, as opposed to those that do nothing in that regard, at least.
I think
Yeah.
if you can make a product or a service as the same quality as any brand, and then add the social aspect, you're going to draw all these like-minded people. That's why wouldn't you?
In a way, it's marketing, right?
It is marketing.
And while contributing to your community and giving back, right? That's in a way that's easy marketing.
Yeah.
I don't think there's very many people that would, question you giving back to your community in any way that you can. If all you do is take and take and take from the community, well, what kind of business are you running? You have to try and give back in some manner to the business or to the community that kind of built you in a way. Especially with a small local business, you're reliant upon that local community. If there's a way for you to give back, right? Calls from work.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with what you're saying, each of you. Why do you think it's so important that brands are the ones that set this example?
Well, I think with social media now we have an ear, so we have a way of helping spread good words. Maybe we don't always do it right, or it maybe doesn't come across authentically. I'm still struggling to find the right wording, so it was so much more authentic when I was one-on-one talking with someone at a fundraiser. Now on social media, I'm like, oh, I just got to find my voice and the right words for that, right? It's hard to say, oh, I have a social purpose with my business without it. It's like I have to find a way to not feel like I have to apologize for saying, if I do good, I need to do well in the meaning making money. So that's sort of what I keep saying, do good and do well. And that sort of helps me kind of keep it all on track. It's okay to do that. So through a brand, any brand, you're going to draw, like I said, like-minded people that may be turned on by what you're doing. And so you don't need a big pod to follow, right? It's just that 1,000 people that believe in you, or whatever that number is. Yeah.
I think that kind of.
I think it's also a line you have to tread a little bit as a brand between acknowledging the fact that, like in my case, for instance, like we're a for-profit business, we make money. The majority of what we do is, only very loosely described as social enterprise, such as, like we helped somebody get shirts for their business to start up. And,
great.
But it's when you're messaging about these issues, it's important to either come off as like really authentic, but you can have almost the inverse effect by doing what I think we've seen some larger brands do with, their messaging regarding something, for instance, like, COVID and what they'll do about it and this, that, and the other thing. So it's tricky, I find, as a brand or a business to tread those lines, not for political reasons as much as it's just for kind of messaging reasons and, where those lines are. So that's always an interesting thing to navigate.
I think you're right about treading that line, trying to make it seem, like you said, authentic, and you're not doing this selfishly for the business. You're trying to actually contribute. It's hard to get that message across, but I think going back to the brands have a bigger platform, right? They have the ability, as opposed to one person, they have the ability to impact more change than an individual by utilizing that social media, the following, like you said, that core group of people who follow your brand. if you can spread that message of community support to them, they can move forward and spread it there, and it should just happen as a trickle down effect,
Yeah.
and hopefully actually cause impact and change.
From a business operations standpoint, I think I've actually had conversations with all of you about this in some capacity, but like Will, I know you're a very large believer in the local food system and supporting local farmers. Whitney, we talked last week about your transition in terms of navigating purchasing specific kinds of silver, which to me was something just like I had never even thought of before, right? And Julian, I know you do a lot of different things with sourcing organic T-shirts and things like that for the clients that want them specifically. But can you talk a little bit about sort of the other side of the social purpose, which is what are the decisions you each make as business people in regards to things like supply chain and hiring locally and how you operate your business to also sort of represent the purpose that you communicate outwardly with the support you offer?
Well, yeah, I want to service my customer in a respectful way and give them great value. So it starts with the customer every time, right, John? Marketing 101. And it's true, it's where it starts. And so that's your sort of local anchor to how you project your business plan. I forget your question now.
Yeah, that was a long-winded question. That was a tough one to keep up with.
Oh, sorry.
My change really. Oh,
it was mostly just around what are the decisions you make in operating your business that also reflects that purpose? Things like where you source your materials from, where you buy your food, things like that. Like, what are the decisions you make on the operation side, not just like the outside, marketing side?
Well, I'll jump in quickly. So I try to source locally when I can, but in jewelry, that's not a privilege I have, but I do get all my silver from North America. I keep it, and I use a company where I pay more money for my silver because of the way they mine and process and manufacture, and they striving to be a B corporation, which is hard for that type of a company. So that's sort of how I do it within my own home studio. The people that come to work here a bit, we try to make it like we all have the same purpose. We're all on the same page. We sit down and have lunch together. I don't know, just those little things that make building your business, like how would you want to be treated? And, you're in control. How do you want to run that business? Well, I want to sit down and have lunch and make soup for everybody or whatever. So that's, but bottom line, I still try really hard to keep my profit margins where they should be, to be responsible, to maybe be able to grow the business, hire more people, or pay people better. So that's another one.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, supply chains and materials and things like that in our business are really difficult. A lot of it, the best we can get for local is all of our equipment's made in America, which is, that's pretty marginal. The majority of our supplies and things like that are unfortunately still manufactured overseas. Most of the garment industry in North America is non-existent. Ink manufacturers aren't here. So that's, the ink manufacturer that makes our ink is owned by the largest plastics company in North America. So there's, there's a lot of downsides to that aspect. So I really try to mostly focus on trying to create a good place to work, because our industry sort of has a little bit of a history of the sort of the sweatshop attitude of whatever North American made options there are, but it's pretty minimal.
Yeah, I think I'm in a position with what I do that buying local and sourcing local, it really just makes sense. Sometimes, yeah, things might be a little more expensive from getting it from the farmer down the road, but it's nice to know that I can support with my business, support that farmer, support that cheesemaker. Being able to give back to those in our community, support them, and knowing that they're creating product that supports us, it to me just makes sense. Why would I go and if I have the ability to get something right out of my own backyard or in my own community, why would I take the other option, which would be, get it from thousands of miles away? Uh, the nature of both of your businesses, yeah, it is what it is. I don't, I don't blame you for being in the position you're in. You're doing what you can to support local. With what I do, it's a little easier to support local on a day-to-day basis with everything that I buy. That's like I said, that's just to me, that's something that goes hand in hand with food business. Why wouldn't I get that vegetable from Patchwork Gardens just up the road when I could? It's yeah. Sorry, it just makes sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you're making those decisions, and sometimes they can be difficult, that affects your pricing, right? And your cost goes up, and so your prices go up. How have you been able to adjust your messaging, or how do you communicate that benefit and the increase in cost to your customers?
A really good experience for me, like just making sure what they get, the nice, just from beginning to end, the process, whether it's at a show or online, they feel heard and know that they are appreciated for supporting local, for sure.
Yeah, I think most people, if you're transparent with them about where you're sourcing it from, explain to them, why does this cost more? I think most people are pretty understanding about that and are willing to, okay, I'll pay that, a few dollars more to support the local product as opposed to supporting something far away who I will never see and never see the impact on that my dollar.
Yeah, we're often up against a lot of sort of online businesses that offer similar services, but are like, for instance, Amazon is soon going to have the largest t-shirt printing operation probably in the world, based out of the United States. So our focus is, it's not so much of a cost thing. We're often kind of a little cheaper than that, but the real thing is to try to explain to customers or focus customers on the idea of hiring like a non-internet based business that's, say, located in South Carolina or something like that, when you can hire, a place in your town, in your region, in your province, and probably get, a bit of a better experience and service and option and that sort of thing. Little tricky in our business because we're not jewelry or food or anything specific. We're sort of treading that line between, are you the staples of t-shirts, or are you like a boutique sort of thing? And we're kind of both, but it's so that's sort of how we try to do the buy local thing, because nothing that we make is from local stuff.
But you employ 8 people, that's huge.
Yeah. It's a lot of t-shirt folding. So
Teachers folding from local hands. So,
yeah, no, exactly. Touched individually by a Kingstonian with love.
So another thing I've heard throughout our conversation this morning, and I hear this a lot from clients too, is there's a tension between doing good and making money. Can you do both simultaneously? How have you wrestled with that, and have you been able to reconcile the two in the way that you communicate it? Because I think to reconcile it for ourselves is a lot easier. To reconcile it in our messaging can be more challenging. So how have you wrestled with and been able to reconcile those?
I'm on that journey now, John. Yeah.
I think that's a figuring it out as you go.
All in the word. Yeah.
Oh, at the end of the day, for me, I'm not really making money right now, so that makes the conversation pretty easy. I'm just giving back. It's what I kind of have the ability to do.
Yeah, no, in our case, we've just sort of plugged the project into our normal sort of operating system, which works pretty well. And as long as I don't go insane and spend all of our money on stuff that we don't need to buy, we'll probably be all right. We're a bulk business, so it's a bit different, and we have a very efficient operation, so we've got a good balance.
I think there's some educating to do now out there, just the way, like when I started making jewelry here in Kingston, the word maker didn't exist yet. And I was like, oh man, I'm not a true artisan. Like I haven't done the 10,000 hours as a goldsmith or a silversmith. I'm not a true artist in my mind. And people are like, oh yeah, you are. And I'm like, no, it doesn't feel right. And then the word maker came along, and then awesome. Now I can explain sort of what I do and who I am. And now this social purpose, although that word's been around a while, I think it's getting more, it's going to be used a lot, right? Like the way maker was. Is everyone a real maker, or like at a certain level of whatever? And I think it's educating. So for example, a mission statement for a company might be what we do, and a purpose statement might be why we do it. So it's just really getting consistent with that. So I've just been doing a lot of reading to try to understand it and have that message authentic. But at some point you have to jump on there, say what you're doing. Like, I've been doing this with the trees, or I've been doing this with Heather forever. I've been kind of quietly doing it, not wanting to feel like I'm tooting my horn and look what I'm doing, right? But at some point you just have to say, screw it, I'm putting it up there, and I'll have my doubters and my people challenge me on it, but I'll get the language right. And the people that do know me know it comes from an authentic place, and I can sleep at night with that, and I'll work on the other stuff as we go along.
I would agree. I would never say that I consider myself a social activist in a way, and that, if somebody wants to judge me for what I'm doing and maybe say that I'm doing it selfishly, that's their opinion. I think those that know me would know that, no, I'd be doing this regardless of the potential positive business impacts it may have.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much for jumping in with us today. I know this is something that, I know it means a lot to each of you, the initiatives that you're tackling and the good you're providing in the world. And to us, it was something really important to talk about, because I think it's something that a lot of people are now starting to explore more, especially as, we're navigating something that's a bit unpredictable. I think we're seeing a big rise of, shop local, but beyond that, we're seeing a big rise of people wanting to support the brands and the companies that are doing good in their communities, and you guys are all a great representation of that. So thanks for jumping on with us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. So next week, we'll be back with another webinar. We'll be announcing it tomorrow on our social media channels. And for those of you who don't know, we also have a private Slack channel. I know Julian's a part of it. And if you have any interest, we have it to talk about local business. It's for small business owners to jump on and talk, have a social place, a place to share business ideas, a place to solve problems together. And so if you want to learn more about that, you can always visit our website at inspirelocal.ca. And with that, thanks for jumping on with us, and we'll see you same time next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.